Hey, welcome to episode number 13 of Topeka Insiders. Today, I have the privilege and honor of having Will Hamilton, a young entrepreneur from Topeka area. So, Will, thank you so much for jumping on the show today.
I'm excited to chat. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's talk about the background there because he's got some connections in Japan. So I decided to use Mount Fuji as the backdrop for Will today. So, well, let's dive right into it. You're just in your early 20s.
Yes, I'm 21.
Okay.
I just turned 21 in April, so
he can drink now if you guys want to buy him a drink after the show. Just want to throw out there. Let's go back in history, memory lanes. Tell us a little bit about the first job, the first adventure as an entrepreneur that you started.
Oh, okay. Well, the first thing I probably ever did was, I guess we got to even go back further to how I got into it. Is when I was a little boy, my sisters were taking piano lessons, and I was always like wanting to do that, but mom would never let me do it. And then finally she did, and it turns out I hated them.
Is that a reason why she didn't want you to do that? Because
she probably figured I would. Yeah. Anyway, so I quit after like a year of it, and ended up teaching myself how to play piano and guitar and a bunch of different instruments. And through that, I started like writing music. And my dad was like, I need to get him a microphone and a computer to make some music. So I started recording music and got into like producing music. And so then in like middle school and early high school, I would always get friends to come over and pay me $20 to like make a little rap song together or whatever.
That's really cool.
And they're always like the worst songs ever. But that was probably my first foray into like doing something creative and making money off of it. And from there, I had a really close friend in high school, and we decided to partner together to make these YouTube videos because he was this video guy that would super into video. He'd make all these like Lego stop motion things, which are really cool, and he's really good at it. But he was like, let's partner together. I have the video skills, and you can teach people how to make music on their computer, like just like the very basics. These videos are like so bad, but we made several of these videos teaching people about like microphones, basic concepts of microphones, and different things. And through that process of us making all these YouTube videos, I was like, man, this video making stuff is fun. So I was like, I need to get a camera. So I got a camera for my birthday. I was like 15, 16, and took that out like a week later and filmed my cousin's wedding and got paid $50 for it. And they like loved it, but it was like really terrible. I'd never done anything with a camera before, so it was like not good at all. But they loved it, and they paid me $50 for it. And I was like, oh, I could do this more. So I started watching like a bunch of YouTube videos on photography and videography. And I was more into filming at that point than photography. I didn't really care anything about photography, but I was watching and learning about it, and said, you know what, I think this is what I want to do. I think I want to film weddings for the rest of my life. I was wrong, but that's what I said at that time. I was going to film weddings. And so I came up with a brand and started advertising my services. And my wedding film brand was Weddings by Hamilton. And I could do photography or videography. I really advertised videography. And so I did that. And just I think a few months later, I got the opportunity to, or maybe about a year later, I got the opportunity to film a wedding for an older couple at our church that was getting married. And they wanted to give me the opportunity to like rent fancy stuff and film their wedding. And so they just paid a bunch of money to me so I could rent these like movie cameras. So I rent like these cinema cameras, the Canon C200s. So they're not like what they use for the big productions, obviously not like $40,000 cameras, but pretty nice cameras, C200s. If anybody knows anything about cameras, those are about probably $6,000 a piece. And so we rented 2 of those and a couple other lenses and cameras, and we filmed, or me and my buddy that we made YouTube videos, those filmed and photographed their wedding. And that was the first serious one we did. And it still wasn't very good, but it was like experience, and we got paid like $800 to do it. And then that same summer, the end of that summer, I filmed a friend's wedding and did a really good job, and kind of maybe not exploded, but a bunch of people were like, oh, this is legit. We could pay him and we could get a really good product. And up until then, all the stuff that I'd done wasn't any good, but people were still kind of interested. But then I posted this on YouTube, started doing things, and people were like, this is amazing. This is incredible. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But And so I started, posting clips of it, advertising it, doing it. So then I started booking weddings left and right. And the next year probably did like 15 weddings, which isn't a ton. And the next year probably did like 30 weddings. And then,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weddings, man.
And, and that varied. I would do weddings for like friends and family as cheap as $500, and then as up to $3,000, $4,000. Never got into like the super high end stuff. And then, after that year where I just had done so much, and kind of the killer for me was there's this weekend where I did like 4 weddings in 5 days, and it just killed me. I hated it. I was just so miserable because I was just so exhausted.
I'm not getting married again.
And like, I filmed a wedding on Friday, was there 12 hours, and then flew out that evening to Utah to film a wedding, and then drove back and then film, it was just too much. And into that year I started looking at, I was like, you know what, maybe I could do something else, because that's a lot of work, and weddings were just not something that I was in love with. So it's like, I could just put this on the back burner. Maybe I could do videos still, but maybe I could do it for companies. And that's kind of where the brand of my brand of Paradigm came. I came up with the branding of Paradigm Video Solutions, and I wanted to provide mostly small businesses and nonprofits with the video tools to advertise or internal teaching videos. And so I started that brand, and used that idea to basically started advertising the idea that, well, I guess I should go back. I started this and nobody ever wanted a video, and they didn't care, and I wasn't making any money, and it was terrible.
When you first
when I
came
started
up with
the Paradigm, and it was like going to businesses and be like, you want a video? You want a video? Or, I had an Instagram, and I'm not like really a salesperson. I kind of hate calling people up and being like, I just kind of want someone else to find me. So that's how I've always been. I've I'm getting better at that, but I have always been kind of like a little more passive on that than I probably should be. And so things weren't just falling in my lap. And I was like, I need to determine. And even when I would talk to somebody, they'd be like, yeah, videos are cool and your stuff looks good, but I just don't think that's something we need right now. That's a lot of money to spend on something, So it's like, well, I need to figure out kind of something that'll actually solve people's problems, right? Business owners don't care for, they can get the most like awesome video ever, and if it costs them $10,000 and then sits on YouTube collecting dust for 6 months,
you want to see a return.
Who cares? Like, that's a waste. Like, obviously there's a reason that McDonald's uses videos and pays millions of dollars, right? There's a reason that all these big companies do that. So why do they do that? And then how can I communicate that same message to these small business owners on a smaller scale, obviously.
Right.
So I started looking into a little bit of marketing and advertising, and kind of understanding that world a little bit better. And that's kind of when I came up with more than just Paradigm. It became Paradigm Video Solutions, because we weren't going to just provide you with the video. We were going to provide you with a strategy of how to leverage that video. Because video, was pretty easy. You look up Google why you should use video, and it goes, video is the highest converting form of media. So it's like 98% higher converting than text and image based. You run ads on Facebook, you should be running video ads, because if you're not, then you're losing out on lots and lots and lots of customers.
Right.
So like, I had to learn how to communicate that to people, and just having those stats in the wheelbase, and kind of understanding where business owners were coming from too in the first place, to why they would actually want to use something like this. And so and understanding also the different types of videos that there are, and then where to place those videos, like where we want like in the customer journey, like how do we get customer from A to B using the video solutions. So I kind of came up with a broad strategy that fit just a general small business niche, and then we would build on that for different businesses. And so then when I went to a business and was like, this is what I want to do, I want to do what we call the video sales trifecta, and this is why I want to do it. It was more like, oh, you want to make us more money, and this is how I'm gonna, and I, showed them how it was going to work. And so that worked a lot better for me. And so that's still really where the video business is today, is still doing that kind of same thing. We focus on 3 main types of videos. Your promotional videos, that's where you're paid advertising. That's what you're running on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Those are like 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds. And those are those, high converting, click on the link. That's what we're trying to get them to. We're trying to get them to the next step. Some businesses like, hey, send us a message. Our whole goal with the video strategy is to get them to the next video, basically, because there's a 3-step process to getting them to a sale. And so the first step of that process is getting them to see the video. And then we use, we have a strategy where we use retargeting. So if someone views the video once and they watch for 5 seconds, we'll hit them again with another video.
Right.
And it might be a different variation of the video, it might be a completely different video. But then they'll see it a second time. This time they stayed on it for 12 seconds. So we know we need to retarget them again. And this third time, they finally, okay, I'm going to click on it. And they click on the link and they get brought to, an optimized website. And one of the things that is main on the website is obviously a clear brand, which we help businesses develop too. Let's get a clear, concise, consistent brand that is consistent with your story and is good. But also we have our brand message video there. Videos, again, highest converting form of media. We want to communicate in videos because videos, people are going to watch videos. People aren't going to read super long story. Like they're gonna like, they're gonna kind of like, okay, he looks cool, all right, moving on. But on the video, they might be doing something on in the background, but they're still getting that, they're still hearing it, and they're connecting with your story. So videos are a powerful tool where you can use visually to kind of create emotion in somebody. So that second part of that process is the brand message video. So we create that brand message video. We we'll film them working, we'll film maybe them at their home with their family, we'll film, different parts that make up the story of who they are, as well as just sitting down and having an interview with them. We film that, and that's kind of like the main piece. Like that's your story, that's your brand message. You put that everywhere, and then the last piece is the customer testimonial, that is the hook, that is the anchor, that is what makes this whole strategy work, is that we get the customers and people that have social proof. Social proof is the best form of getting a customer to trust you, or a lead to trust you. And so that's the third part of the series. So once they watch that brand message video and they've done as long as the website's optimized for it, which we help, the next step is they're going through, they're seeing these, cool images pop up, and then below they have the final part of their customer journey is watching those testimonials. And if they ever leave during any part of those, they don't go through the whole journey, they don't input their information and get that, so you don't get that lead into your CRM. Like the Facebook pixel data is still there, and what that means basically is we'll still be targeting them because we know that they made it there, they just didn't get through the whole process. So eventually the goal is eventually that even if it takes 3 months, a lot of clients, like kind of the rule is, hey, they got to be hit with 7 hours of content. They have 7 hours of like total experience with you before they book, especially on higher ticket things. And so, we're not really worried if that person doesn't immediately buy the very first time they visit your website, because we have that pixel installed that tracks the data and retargets them again. And maybe this time the ad that targets them knows that they've been there before. So we're not going to target them with the ads that are just trying to get them to the site. Now we're going to retarget them with maybe ads that are a little bit more informational, maybe a little more story driven, or maybe they're testimony driven, right? Because maybe they didn't make it to the testimony point, but now we want to target with them the testimony ads because we know that they haven't seen them. So that's kind of and it goes hand in hand with marketing. So if you have if you have a marketing agency you already work with, we're like the marketer's best friend. Because videos are highest converting. A lot of marketing agencies don't do videos in-house, and so they're doing this, and it's really great, and they do really great work. They just also need the videos to be a part of that.
Right.
And so that's why I kind of consider Paradigm Video the digital marketer's best friend. And so that's the video business. That's where I am kind of now with the video business. I don't do a ton of work with it anymore. I do a little bit here and there, and have a few clients that we've been on, had for a couple of years now, but it's not something that I have other things that I do now as well. And so, but yeah, that's kind of where it is now. And I'm always happy to still do that work with anybody.
That's incredible, Will. Like the stuff you just shared with me, that was some high level marketing stuff. So whoever is watching this video, I hope you pick up that information, because that strategy you just mentioned, right? 7 hours impression, and the client's journey, or how you kind of hook the client or prospect, we'll call them sometimes. Most people still don't have that understanding of that, because
Right.
that's a non-traditional way of marketing stuff, like hard selling stuff anymore. That's the old-fashioned way we kind of came across in the past. So thank you so much for sharing that information.
Yeah. Well, I hope
Yeah,
it's helpful.
it's helpful. So if you guys want to learn more, especially if you own a small business, as a viewer, reach out to Will to see if he's got some stuff in his wheelhouse can help you promote your stuff. And more so, I think your approach is more like not trying to sell people stuff, right? More like, hey, look, this is the value proposition I have to kind of add into your
Yeah.
into your marketing strategy you already have.
Yeah, and my goal is to educate people, and that's why I'm like, this is not a secret strategy that I have to keep secret. That I'm like, I can't tell you the 3 videos you need to use.
But most people don't know how to execute. That's where the money comes into play.
Exactly.
As
It's
professionals,
I'll
right?
teach you everything you need to know, and if you want to go and do it yourself, I absolutely think you can. Like, I think it's totally able. But if you want just a hands-off approach to it, we'll do it.
That was a really good pitch, by the way, Will. So now, hey, so I'm assuming there's going to be quite a few younger audience, like if watching the video here.
Uh-huh.
I hope so. I hope so. This video could be inspiring to a lot of you guys. What has been some of the challenges when it comes to entrepreneurship? Can you share a story or two that where, hey, look, I mean, besides the story you just mentioned, hey, look, you just got burned out from the photography world, right?
Yeah.
So that was challenging. I'm assuming you felt lonely, not supported. You're doing all the stuff by yourself, like a lone wolf.
Yeah, it was
Some more stories.
especially because I was a teenager when I was doing most of the weddings. And I look young, and I definitely looked younger then too. It was part of that looking down on you because you're young part. I remember I was having a conversation with my good friend that was like, I always liked people being surprised by how young I was. And I was like, well, you weren't in the same world that I was, because every time that someone asked me my age and I told them I was 17, it was like, maybe we'll call you back, like,
Really?
probably not. Yeah.
You came across that?
All the time. That's just about everybody. And especially when I first started getting into the business stuff, which was, 18, 19, when I was like, you know what, I don't want to do weddings as much anymore. I want to do, maybe focus on the video stuff or with businesses a little bit more. It was a lot of that. Like when they would find out, oh, you're 19. And so when I was 19, I was like, oh, I just want to be 20. And then when I was 20, it was like, oh, you're 20. It was still the same. And I was like, oh, and there's a few people that were like, oh, this is really awesome because you are so young. That means we can trust your digital knowledge more or whatever, because you grew up in it. So there were a few people that were actually did like, but more often than not, the biggest challenge I faced was, well, not the biggest, but one of the challenges that was just kind of disheartening to me was the fact that I was very often disrespected just
because of the age?
Because of my age. Yeah.
How did they, I mean, now I'm curious because I didn't go through that myself. So how did they, I have to take that back, because when I first doing real estate, I was in my late 20s, early 20s. I kind of came across them like that, but they didn't come out really just blatantly say that. So how did they bring up the age thing though? Like they just flat out and asked you, hey, how old you are?
Yeah. A lot of people were like, hey, you seem very young. How old are you? And
so they found that relevant to
the
conversation.
I think they did. I think a lot of people put that, maybe put a little bit more value on. Oh, there is value in experience, and so don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of people, especially in certain industries, having someone with experience that have, when you're talking about like home services, I don't necessarily want someone coming working on my HVAC system that has no experience at all, or like an electrician. So like, I understand that, like they were like, this guy has no experience, and you're thinking of that context. And so I think that part of that question was not just your age, but inherent in that question, like underlying is, what's your experience really? That was where the real question is, like, how can I possibly trust you? You're 18, and that's when like that response is, how could I trust you with, I mean, a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of trust to implement this thing that that they're not even sure about because it's a new concept, right? Like if your air conditioning system goes bad, you're gonna upgrade. You're gonna fix your
Right.
air conditioning system.
Right.
But if you're a small business that's making money, you want to grow, if there's a completely new concept that you've never heard about that is promising to grow and fix things, I think that's a lot harder sell for businesses, and that's where the education comes in. And that's where, especially when I did start implementing the whole idea of, hey, I just want to educate these business owners on this, that certainly helped a lot. Yeah. So I still face the young thing,
Not as much, I would think.
but not as much. And that's what I was when I remember being 18, being like, oh, I just want to be 20. And I was 19, just want to be 20. And I was 20, it was kind of like, okay, it is a little bit better because I'm not a teenager anymore. I think that when I turned 20, it was like, oh, I'm 20. And they're like, oh, he's really young, but he's not a teenager, because inherent in that word is everybody from 13 to 19. And you think inherent in that word, there's like this I guess this
distrust or something for the most part.
Well, I mean, think about the 13-year-olds, and so like I'm not trying to say I was like a super mature person or anything, but I did face a lot of disheartening experiences like that, even in the wedding world, where people would come up to me at the wedding, or I'd get recommendations from a bride that just had an awesome experience with me, and then I'd hop on like a Zoom call with a potential bride and groom, and they're like, oh, this guy looks really young. Hey, how old are you? And they'd probably like just like asking, I was like, I'm 17 or I'm 18 or whatever. And it was like, and I never heard from them again. That happened probably 15 times in 1 year when I was 17. No, 18 probably. Didn't have as many calls as 17.
So how did you overcome that, like, mentally? So that's my $1 million.
Yeah.
You just kind of like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna overlook that. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it get to me.
A lot of talking to my mom and not being happy about it. I was like, Mom, what do I do?
So she was your therapist for the most part.
My mom was my therapist. That's good. Yeah, she's a good listener. Yeah, trying to kind of just.
But I feel like you're a pretty confident person, right? I mean, that's how we kind of got to know each other, met. You just put yourself in a completely strange environment. I wouldn't say strange, like foreign environment that you were never part of it. I'm talking about networking events.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten better at those kind of things, and gotten better at just not worrying about, people's perception of you, as long as I present myself as a good and honorable person, and do the best I can with what I have and who I work with, like 100% of the time. It's like, I'm not going to be super worried, I guess. And so when, like, nowadays, like when I first came to the networking with the Because Generosity Network, it was just like, okay, they can either like me or they can't. I only have so much control out of that. I'm going to be myself and just introduce myself.
Right.
And that's the same thing. I've been that way for a long time, I think. But there's certainly a level of more confidence I've grown, especially when you're new at anything. Being confident in something that kind of presenting a confidence to yourself when you actually aren't confident about something is kind of hard.
It is. It's very hard.
And so
hard to disguise that.
Like sales, which is kind of what it was when you're hopping on calls or just talking to people about like wedding business, wedding videography and photography. That wasn't something I was super confident in doing. I was like, yeah, here's the weddings I've done and they look really good. And that, if that's not enough, then that's all I have. So
that was the only pitch you had for the most part, right? Just the product itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Does it look good?
They look good to you. Yeah.
And kind of my thought was like, why do I need anything more than that? People say I'm good to work with and the videos look good. Why do you need anything more? And so when I took that into the business world and I tried that way, it worked even worse. It doesn't work very well in weddings, and it works even worse in business world.
That's actually a very good point, because a lot of times, believe it or not, people actually don't care about your quality. When it comes to business world, they only care about the person they're seeing, the first impression, or whatever that matters to them on the spot.
Yeah.
I mean, just incredible, especially for a lot of times, like for the stuff I do, right? I would think people really care about the quality and track record because we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in
Right.
results, and they don't. They don't.
You see all the time companies that do something worse than another company.
Yeah.
But this one is a $2 billion company, and this one's a small local company. Like,
Right.
and that started somewhere. Like, obviously it's not like they do bad work. They wouldn't be a $1 billion company without bad work. But I mean, McDonald's doesn't make better food than a lot of people do.
Well,
But they provide service in a different way.
that's right.
And then they also, there's, lots of local companies that are way bigger than other local companies. And the reason is because not necessarily the work they do, but the way they've structured their strategy.
100%. 100%.
So.
Well, next question. So I like to kind of know, we kind of talk about the negative stuff. I wasn't calling it negative, more like the learning curves that you had to go through. So what has been some of the most rewarding experiences or stories that you can tell people? Of course, people happy with your wedding photography, right? Of course, I'm assuming it was kind of.
Oh yeah,
rewarding.
yeah. Especially, I mean,
besides that, so like, what else do you feel like it's really rewarding coming out on entrepreneurship?
Seeing the work seeing the work I do actually be positive. Not
appreciate it and compensate it.
Well, right? Yeah, for sure. But just the fact that it's actually true, and like the results are real. It's not just like, again, you make a video for someone and it sits collecting dust. It's, you make a video and then they make sales. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, of course, yeah. First time I got $9,000 paycheck, it was
something. It's McDonald's. That's what I do, actually.
It was like
get a big check, go to McDonald's.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's rewarding to get paid for the work you do. Absolutely. It's also rewarding, even when a couple years later, and a client will share your post and be like, "This person's awesome." It's like, especially with you, I'm sure, like your business is all about relationships, and I've tried to, in a way, structure myself around that too. A lot of people that are in my sphere that do a similar thing to video strategy, not just video, they make everything, to me, it's not they do great work, but they keep everything digital. Like, hey, we're not going to ever see each other in person until I'm there filming, and then we're never going to see each other in person again. Like, we're going to hop on the Zoom calls, it's all going to be digital, you're going to fill all these forms, and like, and I definitely think there's a side to that that's really important, because that's how you scale, really.
Right. Yeah.
But for me personally, the people, like the relational part of being a small business owner in a relatively small town is one of the most rewarding facts, because you just make connections and you get to hang out with people. And that's my favorite part, is sitting down and having a conversation over lunch or whatever. Like, that's so fun. And I wouldn't give that up. And so that's why a lot of the times my initial consulting, even though it probably, like, for scalability wise, should be online, is oftentimes I'm going to take them out to lunch and it's going to be like an hour and a half, or it could just be like an actual video demo. That's what our software company, our software agency, that's what we do. It's all digital, and it's really fun, and it's definitely more scalable than the video stuff that I do. But as far as like the relationships and the rewardiness as that goes, it's like, there's so much more to building when you build a relationship. And then I've had several clients too where they've started out, I've made a good amount of money from them, but because I did it all, driven from relationships first, they stayed a client for the last couple of years. And not only that, but I've gotten, so much more work from them. Whereas, I see all the time people in my, similar sphere of work. I don't think they get that. I don't think they get that response from their clients. It might be really awesome work, and they might have some referrals, but just the way that, even if it's like not even video related, people will come back to me and be like, well, what do you think about this? Because the work that we do with them is so much broader scale than just video. It's all, it's brand. I mean, it's just a whole big picture, and we're going to work, we're going to build that from the ground up.
That's so true. That's so true. I mean, that's just another golden nugget that Will just dropped today. I mean, whoever's watching this video, I mean, you just load this entire video up with all the information that people really, I mean, if somebody wants to get into entrepreneurship, this is the good and bad. I would say good and bad. I would say this is some of the great information should help you get started. You know, the stuff he just shared. So all this, he's also has the marketing side of his paradigm, which is his agency. So feel free to reach out to Will about that. So today I'm going to ask him another question. If you guys are still watching here today, we're going to dive into this thing. It's so foreign to a lot of people, but at the same time, it's so popular. You know, we kind of play with it a little bit, ChatGPT a little bit.
Okay.
The AI, right? Artificial intelligence. When I was growing up, I think the whole concept came out maybe mid 2000.
Well, when did
artificial intelligence?
When did the Matrix movies come out?
Oh man, that was in like 1990.
AI was starting in, man.
Or were you talking about that in the movie?
I mean,
artificial intelligence.
Matrix is all about the artificial intelligence taking over the world.
Taking over. Oh, okay. I've never watched that movie before.
Oh man. Okay.
So
well, we're gonna watch that today. No.
growing up, like Japan was actually one of those leading countries about AI because they were always trying to tap into AI and the robots and stuff like that. All right. Well, tell us about what do you know about ChatGPT and why you should get on the wagon as a business owner.
Man,
another question.
Yeah, that's like there's so many different avenues we could go.
Just pick one. Just pick one, like the one that you feel like, hey, if you don't know what it is, first of all, sign up first, right?
Yeah, if you don't know what it is, first of all, just like sign up and just chat with it. So it's this basically it's a chat bot. But it's so much more than it's a place where you can go online, put in a question or prompts or anything.
Prompts are the keywords. Prompts are the keywords you can trigger answers.
Ask it anything and it'll answer. So I guess from a high level, it's better than Google if you want to ask it questions. It'll be faster and you'll get better answers quicker.
Because Google would only just pull up the web pages to consolidate your resources. It's going to come with the number of answers. Is that what you're saying? Is that why ChatGPT is
if I'm better? If I'm thinking like, what is the origin of the word worship? We were talking about that earlier. Okay, what's the origin of the word worship? And I looked that up on Google. I'm gonna have to then find a link, and then once I find the link, I'll go to the link, and then I'll read an article and I'll look at it, and it might take me a lot longer to find the answer.
I see what you're saying.
Well, if I do it in ChatGPT, I go, hey, what's the origin of the word worship? And then it's going to go boom, boom, boom. It's going to give me the answer right away. And it's going to be pretty clear and concise. And then I go, okay, well, and then I might ask them a second question. Are there differing opinions of what the origin of this word might be? Right. Well, then it's going to give me like, oh, here's a couple different like scholarly like opinions. Here's what a couple of the different leading thinkers think about this word, whatever it is. And so it's the power of a question. It's the power of the follow-up, right? Which is where that search engine becomes so much better than just like the initial search. Like 90% of the time you'll find the answer on Google, but you can't then go, so
what's next?
What's next, right? Like what's the Greek form of this word? And then what's like the literal translation of it? Okay, then what's kind of the essence of the translation of it? And you can, like I do that all the time because I'm always studying the scripture texts, and I'm always looking into like the ancient Greek, Aramaic, or Hebrew, and trying to understand like the language and the culture. If I'm doing that on Google, it's not going to do anything for me, but I can do that all in ChatGPT because it'll give me those answers based off whatever question I want to ask. So then when you bring that ChatGPT idea into like the business world, it explodes in the capabilities of what it can do.
Exactly.
I mean, you can do so much, even just like inside your business, not even talking about externally using it for your customers, which you can definitely do. And we should definitely, talk about, but
I still remember Will's face, but not Will's face, Kyle's face. When we were going through chat, he did not know this thing existed, right?
Dude, it's crazy. It's just crazy.
But anyways,
and
you guys know that now.
And so, like on the business side of things, let's say I'm an entrepreneur that wants to think through what I want to do with my business,
right?
And I have a few ideas: photography, videography, marketing. I can have ChatGPT help me develop an entire business strategy, like what Roger was talking about at our meeting the other day. He was talking about developing entire business strategy. You can have it do math for you. You can have it estimate like your costs, and you can have it build you video scripts. So like you're doing videos with me, and
Right.
that's a lot of times where I'll start. But the power of chat is also in what we were talking about, the prompts, like the keywords that you give it. And so if I just say, write me a video script, like it's going to be a pretty bad video script. But if I give it some structure and I say, you know, using the concepts of R.R. Douglas Kingsworth that he presents in his, you know, Story Blocks idea book, I want you to write me a video script for my company, link your company, and here's some extra details about the company. And if you do that, you know, or then I want you to write it 30-second, and I want it to be professional,
Personal,
or I want it to be, or I want it to be quirky, kind of silly, Super Bowl ads, you know. And you do that, the result that you're going to get is going to be incredible. And then from there on, you can go, okay, hey, I don't want him to mention this. And then I'll rewrite it with that. And then, oh, well, I don't want there to be 3 people in this ad. I only want there to be 2 people in this ad. And, oh, I don't want them to sit at a desk in that scene. I want them to be outside on a golf course. And it'll rewrite that, and it'll rewrite that, and it'll rewrite that. And then suddenly you basically have a perfect script. And even if it's not perfect, you have an incredible place to start from. But you can do that with anything. You can do that with any copy that you want on your website. Like, hey, I want you to write a bio about me. Here's all the information about me, and I want you to do it professionally. I want you to do it concise. I want you to be personal. You know, like I want, because maybe you're not the best writer, but ChatGPT is. And there's just, the tools are endless, even on the internal side of things. Not even talking about the external uses for when you start using it externally for clients and advertising and chatbots and etc., which is kind of what my business leverages, my marketing agency. And so
that's where I want to get at. So that's where his value proposition is, because you know we had some conversations here and there. Will that was just some next level stuff, right? I mean, it's, you coming from a younger generation, you're seeing all this stuff coming out. I mean, I'm picking all this stuff up. I've utilized it a lot. So what's your advice for people who don't want to get on it?
Who don't want to get on it? Well, I mean, it's just,
I came across quite a few. I mean, just over the meeting
Wednesday,
right? A lot of people didn't even know about it.
I guess I just want to draw parallels to when the internet became a thing. And I can't remember who said the quote. It would be
we were born into it.
It would be pretty easy to find the quote, but I can't remember who said it. He says basically, you know, the internet will be a short-lived fad. And that's what he said. Like, and it was this big, like, economist, big name. I'd have to look it up to find out who had this quote.
He said that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, obviously he was wrong, right? Like, the internet is literally everything we do. Nobody does not use the internet in United States. And, and like, if you don't use the internet and you have a business, you're one of the 0.001% left, right? Like, and you're certainly not going to scale without the internet. I mean,
100%, because nothing would be operational.
Right.
Right.
And so in the same way, those of us that are refusing to leverage this tool that is in the beginning, I mean, you can pay and get access to the 4th version of this AI bot, the 4th version, you know, and for free, you get access to the 3.5, you know, so like we're in a really, really early stage of this. And I'll tell you, I was using chat back in January. None of the capabilities that it has now. I mean, it was not as good as it is in any way, shape, or form. Not anywhere close.
Just 6 months earlier.
And that was version like 2, I think, in January. So that's 6 months ago that I couldn't get it to write me a compelling script. And nowadays I can have it with my marketing agency. We can leverage AI and we can build like it for a specific company to the point where we can use it from start to finish to close a deal and never even talk to somebody, but it presents itself as, I mean, it's incredible the ability it has. So as for like a larger scale company for them to implement it, which they probably already have. It's so much more than just, you know, clicking. Like you've ever got on a website and you can go to like a chatbot support and you have to click this, like that's not AI. That's just pre-programmed
script stuff.
You know, if this, then that,
right?
You know, AI can literally be conversational. It can be your tech support.
Yeah.
And here in probably 5 years, it will replace thousands, and it will create, but it will also replace thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs. Coding 90% of coding will be obsolete here in a few years. I built an entire software program without coding in the last 6 months.
I believe that.
Using ChatGPT and other non-coding tools.
I'm so glad I slept through all my coding classes I did not miss a thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive, and it's like, that's why whenever I'm talking to kids, they're like, oh yeah, I want to work for Google, I want to code. I'm like, probably not, buddy. I've had 1 or 2 of those conversations in the last 6 months. Like, okay,
That's really cool.
It's not like those jobs will no, I don't think any job will completely disappear in the next 5-10 years, but definitely you'll be hard pressed to find work in certain areas. It's hard to predict exactly what it's going to.
Right.
I definitely think like I had chat write me, and we have our own proprietary AI now. Using the API that the OpenAI created. Using that, we have written so much code that works flawlessly. And what's just incredible about it is like, hey, I need you to create me a GIF that's on the website. It's centered. This is the measurements of it. And then when the mouse goes over it, it expands slightly. And then it rotates and moves based off where the mouse is. Like that's not an easy thing, but I developed that just by giving the AI prompts, and you can do that in chat. Absolutely. And so you can design a website from scratch. I mean, without using a block editor, because every like Wix, Squarespace, even my platform, which we build websites on, you can drag and drop blocks, and that's great, and it's really easy.
Right.
But if you want like higher customized things, you're going to have to hire someone to do it, and I definitely think it's still worth it at this point. But like for us, we were able to use and leverage that AI ability to do kind of these insane animations and high level website stuff that is not available on WordPress with a block editor or whatever without hiring someone. But we didn't hire anybody. We just used the AI, the API. So yeah, it was pretty neat stuff. Like if you go to a website, if you go to our agency or our marketing agency website, goparadigmportal.com.
I'll link that underneath in the caption of this video.
There's a lot of animations and things that you can't do with a block editor that we didn't hire a coder to do. So
didn't seem like you would need it anymore, right? Coder.
When we have a package where we have like a built website, and it's like we still hire someone. Then we still have a guy that does the website because there is still limitations to it, right? Especially when clients have a specific vision. For us, it was like, we're going to fit the vision inside the AI, because like that was part of the thing. That's part of the sell. Now we can sell people on this AI because you say, look at this thing that we built with it. But for broader, bigger scale projects and websites that are super in depth, or like e-commerce sites or things, there still is that value in having a real person. For now, at 5 years down the road, probably not. So
that's incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Will, thank you so much for your information. That was awesome stuff. When we first started this conversation, I didn't know where this would go, but you dropped so much awesome information here just on the show. I hope that people will take away, especially use this platform as inspiration. If you want to get into entrepreneurship, you want to get into business, get into marketing, give Will a call or his agents a call. So
Absolutely.
You guys will not be disappointed. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed the converation. We weren't even planning on doing this today, and it was super
impromptu.
So.
This is awesome stuff. I did not know you were that talkative. So
yeah, I like to talk. Also, I'll just talk forever.
That's pretty cool. Alrighty, guys. Peace out. You guys enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you guys next episode. Thank you.